discovered this cabinet, it was kept in storage since many years. The surface covered with a thick and dark varnish, making it difficult to see the original decorations. I wanted to find out what had happened to the lacquer decoration and try to bring the cabinet back to life again. The thick dark varnish showed many different problems on the lacquer surface. This affected the brightness of the colors, the smoothness of the surface and the transparency and gloss of the original lacquer, making it really difficult to see the original decoration. To get more insight into the lacquer's appearance, I conducted material technical research, where I tried to collect as much information as possible from the object itself. For example, I took small samples to study the different layers of the lacquer under a microscope. I also analyzed the material content of each different layer to be able to distinguish the original lacquer layers from later added layers. It also showed that the different problems on the lacquer surface was due to these later added coatings. Because of the negative effects of these later added coatings, it was desirable to investigate if they could be removed without harming the original lacquer decoration underneath. Removing an unwanted coating from a surface is difficult, so it is essential to perform practical tests. We found a successful method with a water-based solution, which was applied in the form of a gel onto the surface. Although this method took quite some time, we were able to safely remove the unwanted coating without harming any of the original layers of the lacquer decoration.
This cabinet has just been installed here in the gallery devoted to works of art from the reign of William and Mary, so the end of the 17th and very early 18th century. And it's a very rare piece of furniture. It's a Dutch cabinet made in imitation of Oriental lacquer. Japanese lacquer was imported into Holland from the early 17th century onwards, and it was one of the most highly prized types of object you could possess. We're beginning to discover through this cabinet a tradition of Amsterdam Japanning, of Amsterdam imitation lacquer that apparently lasted for almost a century. The cabinet is very large, of a size that was never made like this in Japan or in China, but was by that time the fashionable piece of storage furniture in Holland. Cabinets of this size, there were several in this room, but decorated in a Western manner, were the type of luxury furniture that you wanted to have as the central piece of a drawing room in which to receive visitors.
The result is very satisfying. The cleaned area shows the bright color and the gloss of the original decoration. Zooming into detail, we see how smooth the surface appears underneath the unwanted coating, making the original decoration much more visible. After removing the unwanted coating, small damages in the lacquer surface were painted black, so not to disturb the eye when admiring the beautiful decoration. Removing the unwanted coating has really brought the cabinet back to life. After 2 years of research and conservation, the beautiful and colorful decorations are finally visible again.
Now, the material is very different. Oriental lacquer is made from a special sap from a tree that could only grow in the Orient, so could not be made here. And it is made in a very painstaking manner of layer upon layer upon layer, which produces a very beautiful depth of gold, shining through and standing out from the black. We could do nothing like that. And in fact, this has been painted in rather a simple manner, but with the addition of gums and varnishes to give it the idea, the shine of Oriental lacquer. The background, of course, is very much what we knew from Japanese lacquer, and then these fanciful figures that move about the space. They're not telling a story or anything, they're just a fantasy. The flowers that surround them are much bigger than they are themselves. They don't go anywhere. A very specific characteristic of Oriental lacquer is the asymmetric nature that has been copied here on one door, but it seems as if the Dutch got a little bit restless because of that asymmetry, because then that entire scene has been mirrored and is repeated on the other door, so that the actual effect is symmetrical, except for the very, very beautiful central style, which amazingly is actually the most beautiful part of this cupboard. This is a functional thing. It protects the side of one door. There's a big keyhole in it, which is slightly disfiguring, in fact, but they've concealed it beautifully by painting a flower around it. It has been turned into a very beautiful decorative feature, and in fact the quality of the painting on that central style is the highest on the entire cabinet.
I'm really happy that the cabinet now can be shown to the public. Hope you enjoy it during your visit in the Rijksmuseum.